extremely honored to host with us Mr. Kush Patel. Mr. Kush Patel is an IITP alum of 2017 batch and did his Masters in Management from Duke University, the Fuqua School of Business. He is currently an investment banker at Bourne Partners. Today, he will share his rich experience related to the investment banking field. The audience members can ask their questions by raising their hands one by one at the end. Over to you, Bhaiya.
Perfect. Thanks, Madhu, for the introduction. And I hope everyone is doing well. Um, everyone's, I'm sure, like, I was talking with Madhu the other day, and I found like most of you from second year to fourth year, you guys are done with your exams, and I think first year, because you guys started late, you still like are in the process of finishing up the semester. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what my understanding is. Um, and is everyone able to hear me okay? Just like if can give me the thumbs up so that I can, okay, sounds good. Um, yeah, so brief, I'll, what I've decided is like, I'll talk about the industry, talk about me a little bit, talk about the firm that I'm working for, and like overall, what's the overall financial market and how there are different job functions within the industry. So that's what I plan to talk about for like first few minutes, and then at any point, if you have any question or if you want to do follow-up Q&A that works with me, feel free to interrupt at any point if you think like you have some questions. So a very brief background about myself. I'm originally from Gujarat. I went to IITP. I graduated class of 2017. So spent 2 years in the old campus in Patliputra. I'm not sure if you have ever been there, but that was like for our batch. We spent two years there, and then we had to transition when the Beta campus was under construction, not fully constructed, but it was like 80% of the construction was done. Basically, what we needed was tutorial blocks and all the departmental buildings, hostels. They were all in good place. So it was good. I think I personally felt like I got to experience both the parts of the city. One was like in the city, and the other one was like on the outskirts. So experience was good. I was in chemical science and technology BTech branch. I'm not sure if that's existing now. Probably they changed to chemical engineering or something, but the departments were like kind of overlapping, and it was basically the same thing. Um, Graduated in 2017, and while I was in college, I was involved in some sort of like extracurricular activities in form of sports. I'm sure like you all will be participating in tech clubs or culture or sports, and I encourage everyone to do so. Like if you're not doing, um, believe me, like all these things will help you in the future whenever like you are working somewhere or wherever you are interviewing or talking about someone. All these experiences, or even like by showing some uh, right now participation. I see a lot of people are here, and that shows like you all are like interested in some other than the boring, or not boring, I'd say, but like the daily routine of like going to classes and all those stuff. But also by participating in clubs like finance club or any other entrepreneurship club or your departmental clubs, it's a good way to like give yourself a break from the regular routine, and also like go out and explore something that you really like. So this is my take, and I was like, I played cricket from first year to fourth year, and I was honored to be captain of our college team for third and fourth year when I was in third and fourth year. Um, Participated in just one inter IIT. Unfortunately, when I was in third year, which was like 2015, Chennai floods were there, and that was supposed to be one of the big events, but inter IITs got cancelled, and we were not able to participate. So yeah, that's my like brief background while I was in Patna, and then graduated in 2017 and got a job through campus placement. I worked in Bangalore at Capgemini for a few months, around 8, 9 months. I wasn't like sure that's something that I really wanted to do, but I was like, all right, let's just go and explore something. from day one, I knew that something I wanted to do was like something related to business, whether in capacity in terms of like finance or trading or any other thing. But that's what like my background, even like before I came to Patna, I have like come from a business background, and I've seen like my dad trading stocks and doing deals and all those stuff. So part of the reason that I was always interested. Yeah, go ahead. Is there a question from someone? All right, so yeah, so that was like kind of my motive behind trying to, so growing up in a family where I've seen things, I was like always interested in doing that. And that's why I decided not to stay like long enough in Capgemini and trying to be a data analyst. Rather, I decided, and I had actually had the opportunity to move to the United States. So after working for 9 months, I moved to States and I was in Florida. And as soon as I moved there, I was working with another firm that was in a real estate data analytics firm. Again, like the work was not exactly what I wanted to do, but it was, I was like, as if I could say, I was like preparing for my next steps of the journey. And there, my role was more of a business analyst, where I was like actually working with clients, working with third parties, like so I was in a real estate firm, so I was working with brokers, I was working with insurance agents, and um, we were providing them the services that they wanted. And after working there also for like few months, I decided like, maybe what's the best path if I want to enter into investment banking, or let's say management consulting, or any other if you guys are interested. So one option I was thinking is like, okay, I can work for like 3-4 years and go do like traditional 2 years business school in US, which is kind of different than IIMs, because in US you need like, at least they prefer, I mean, not, it's not required, but they prefer if you have some sort of corporate work experience before you join. And I was like, I don't want to wait for like another 4 or 5 years working in something I don't like and then go to business school and then transition. So fortunately, I was able to find like a couple of programs. So there are like 1 year master's program, and they are offered by business school. They are very similar to MBA program. The only disadvantage of those programs are like 1 year, and there's advantage and disadvantage. Advantages are like it's just 1 year, so you are saving 1 year. You are saving like 1 year worth of fees, which are like, to be honest, very expensive here. And then in terms of 2 years, you get to work as so in a traditional 2 year program. What people do is like at the end of a first year, they will do internship, and then uh, most of the time they'll be recruited, just like in colleges, like third year after wherever you go for internship. Most of the times, many people get PPOs. So that's a kind of trend here also. So that was my thinking. So I was like, should I go for 2 year or 1 year? And then there are like two good schools back at back then in 2019 at least. So this kind of program, 1 year master's program, is very popular in Europe, especially in like France, Spain, London. They have some really good business schools. But the only disadvantage I would say is like most of the times people go there, and it's so hard like to work in a European country versus working in US or India, because of a couple of reasons, like work legal restrictions, language barriers, and all those stuff. So that's one of the option if someone wants to explore, someone wants to get a business school, um, 1 year master's exposure in Europe, and then ultimately if they're thinking if it doesn't work, I can always come back to India and work either in business, family business, or whatever, like find another job. Or so that's one of the option. And if you are like interested to move to US has like couple of really good business schools. So Fuqua like ranks in top 10, top 15. So they're consistently. So it's not like 1 year, but Fuqua School of Business. Duke University is like it's also private university, but it's very prestigious, very hard to get into for undergrads. But they have a really good business school as well. And like I said, it's top 10, top 15. So I was like fortunate to get, so I like went through traditional application process, which consists of GMAT and then referrals. And writing essays and all those stuff. So I went through that process and I was able to um, get admission back in 2019. So this was my journey from 2017 to 2019, where I was like changing jobs and working from one place to another. And once I got admission, I was like, okay, let me start the groundwork right now. So I was like, okay, I want to go into finance. I want to be prepared before I go to business school. And that's why I'm not sure if you all are familiar, but CFA, which is Chartered Financial Analyst, it's a very good program in terms of, so it's a certification program. So if you pass like all three exams and if you meet certain years of experience working in an industry, then you become chart holder. But I just took CFA level 1 exam, and that was also really helpful in preparing me understand all different wide variety of topics and concepts in the financial world. So I took that, and then in 2019 summer last year, I went to business school. It was 1 year program, so it was like very fast. Did not knew like when it started and when it finished. And in December, we have like 1 month break. So a lot of people from India, especially, they try to go back and visit the country, visit family during that 1 month break. But I instead decided to do a winter internship. So it's like internship or whatever they call it. So I was recruiting at the time, but I was also reaching out to people, and which I'll talk about little later in the presentation or in our talk, that why it's important in this particular industry if you want to enter, why it's important to reach out to people and to network with people. So I was networking with people, and I was able to connect with one of our alums, 1983 pass out alum, and who was running his own bank in New York. And I met him, I talked with him, and I went through the interview process, and I was able to get internship there. So that was pre-COVID. So this is, I'm talking about November 2019, December 2019, and I was lucky to go up to New York. Um, Went to the financial market of the like financial capital of the world, where Wall Street is, and it was like really me like putting my foot in the door of financial world. So that was like, I would say, my first genuine finance related or investment banking related experience. And I worked there for like months. Then I had to come back, and around that time, COVID started to happen. Yeah, I see your hand raised. Someone wants to ask a question. Okay. So I was there like for a month, and then again, like because college started, I had to come back. But I was occasionally working remotely with the same firm whenever they needed some extra help or anything in any capacity. And then I graduated in May. So between March and May, I remember like that was not the best time, because that's the time actually you're like preparing to finish off your college experience, and you're like going to meet your friends for the last time probably before meeting them again, like maybe once in a while. But because that's when like you spend, and I'm sure like you also had to go through the same experience. I'm sure like how important being in IIT Patna and like being in hostels and all those like stuff you do like at late nighters, and how important and like how integral that is, that part of your life. So I'm sure like, but this was like beyond anyone's control here, and everyone had to go through that in some form, in some capacity. So I graduated last summer in 2020, and then I continued working with the same firm, and they offered me full-time position. So I was working with a firm named MD Global Partners, and the firm like I talked about was founded by our college alum, but as well as that guy used to work with Lehman Brothers, and that was like in 1980s when the market was going through similar ups and downs of what we are seeing right now. Um, and Lehman Brothers, right now, it's not existing. They collapsed in 2008. But back then, it was one of the top three, top five investment banks. And working under a guy who started his career at Lehman Brothers, spent 35 years um, on Wall Street, and it was like unbelievable experience. It was like so much learning, and that's sort of encourage you all to do as well. Like it's always good to have a big environment work exposure, but at the same time, if you can find someone who can mentor you, someone who can guide you, someone who has been through like different kinds of ups and downs in life. The guy I was working with also had like his office on the 87th floor of World Trade Center before like 2001 when the plane crash happened. So he started like and unfortunately like he had lost so many people when the crash happened, but even after that he was able to bounce back and start wherever he was. So I was like lucky enough to work under him, and I consider him as my mentor, and he took me under his wings, taught me a lot of things, gave me a very good. So the firm I was working, so even in like investment banks, there are different kind of industries which you target. So your client will be from tech industry, from media, from telecommunication. They could be from consumer, they could be from retail, they could be from healthcare. So there are like many different industries. But the firm where I was working was like a generalist. Okay. Can someone mute? Yeah, thanks. Um, so I was working in a firm that was a generalist. So we don't particularly um, provide services to just one industry, but we take any industry. So client could be from any industry. And I'll talk about like what investment banking exactly is, but like just that was I was doing. And then I spent like few months there from I would say from 20 December 2019 until the beginning of this year, which around January, February 2021. And then at that time, like markets started to bounce back and job activities were like all around. People wanted to hire everyone because there was some pause for last 6 to 8 months during COVID. And then I came across this opportunity where I'm currently working at. So the name of the firm is Bourne Partners, and I'm working as an investment banker there. It's been good so far. It's been a very busy year. Um, I was yesterday thinking I started in March and it's been like close, like end of the year. So it's been like 9, 10 months already, but seems like it went time flight. Time was like it flew, like it was so fast. I could not like even imagine. Oh, I just started like in beginning of the year. So that's a brief background about like where I come from and where I am. Any questions so far? Okay, I take the silence as no, and then I'll talk about like now what like investment banking is, like what's this like buzzwords, or what is this about, like what is um I'm sure like you would have seen like in movies or anywhere, they're like all these suits people wear on Wall Street and talk around numbers and what's going on in the stock market. So like investment banking as a whole is just like any other bank. If you think about in 1800s and like 1900s, or like in back, or even today, like how the bank started. So bank usually started with the lending activity. So you need money, you want your money to be secured, so you go to bank and you put your money, and in return the bank is providing you interest, and the bank is using that money to lend it to someone. So that's how the circle worked. But in 1800s, when the industrial revolution was going on, um, for governments or for corporations, when they wanted to raise money, just the local bank in your area was not sufficient enough for them to provide like the capital they needed. So what they started doing is they started, or I would say the investment bankers like started to pop up, and what they did is that they facilitated the transaction. So they knew corporations, government wants to raise like a lot of money which they are not able to access. So they started tapping their network of high net worth individuals, or high or so it all started with like, okay, I want money, and I know, okay, there's some guy who wants to invest money. So in very simple, in layman terms, this is what investment banking is all about. If someone needs the money, someone wants to invest the money, but they don't know each other. So as an investment banker, you are like trying to bridge the gap. You are the medium through which this transaction is going to happen, and in the process you are like, because you are providing the advice or because you are like connecting them, you earn some fees, and that's your like the transaction revenue that you generated. So that's how it started. So in 1800s, all those bankers like J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, because in US industrial revolution was going on. So steel industry, railroad, all this like required a lot of, it was all capital intensive industries, and a lot of people were not able to get money. So this is how it started. And over the period, it every decades a new thing started coming up. So earlier it was equity and then debt, and even in debt you'll have like different structures like collateralized mortgage obligations and whatever, like 1980s, and a lot of things started popping up. Then over last 20-30 years, there's a lot of companies that they want to grow, they want to go to the next phase of their path. And so there are like two ways you can grow. Either you can grow organically or inorganically. So organically, how you can grow is like you'll invest money, you will expand your product portfolio, you will expand your customers base, you will enter into new geographic segment. But this is like very capital intensive. You need money. So this is possible, but it takes time. It's capital intensive. So what firms started doing is they started acquiring other firms. So instead of like going through all this process, they're like, okay, this already existing, there's a business which is already running, let's just go buy them. And that's when the investment bankers came in and advised again, okay, you are the buyer, you are the seller. I know someone wants to sell, or I'm advising someone who wants to sell. I know the buyer who wants to buy. So you started bridging the gap there as well. And they're also like based on the transaction amount that happens, you get certain percent of the fees. So this is like the basic idea of what investment banking is. And even in investment banking, there are like different categories of the firm. So at the top, it's called bulge bracket banks. So I'm sure you would have heard of banks like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Barclays, Citibank, Bank of America. They all are big banks. And so they have the clients like the Apples and the Teslas and the Googles of the world. So they are like, they don't touch companies that are less than $50 billion in market cap. They work with the sovereign wealth fund of Abu Dhabi. So Abu Dhabi has like a lot of money, and now they want to diversify their exposure rather than just oil or tourism. So they will reach out to these banks who has like access to other side of the world where people either are needing money or they want to invest money and give it to them. So this kind of banks fall into bulge bracket banks. Then you have middle market banks where you would say companies in between the market cap of like $500 million to $50 billion, they fall into, and they particularly target and advise clients who are in that range. And then comes the lower middle market or boutique firms, as they call. So I'm working in a lower middle market firm, and where like our clientele, our client base, we try to target companies that fall in like $25 million until $500 million. So that's our sweet spot. But that being said, we have done deals as low as like $5 to $10 million and as high as like $1 to $2 billion. So this is like the three main categories I would say in investment banking, and the size and the scale of the firms and the type of deal that you do. And then even within investment banks, there are like a lot of different functions. So there's capital markets. So what is capital markets? So capital markets is like you raise equity. Equity is like, I'm sure you all know, like just giving someone a piece of your pie, and in return you get some capital. There's debt capital markets where you are like, okay, I don't want to give ownership of my company, but I want money so badly. So what's the other thing you can do? It's like, okay, I'll go raise some debt, I'll take money, I'll use that to expand my business, generate the cash flow from there, and pay off the interest, and then ultimately I'll pay off my debt. So this is like basically the capital markets or the financial markets in the world. That's how they work. It's mainly equity and debt. And then within the equity and debt, there are like so many, believe me, like there are like people are creative they are getting creative day by day. They'll come up with some very tailored, very structured transactions. But overall, like equity and debt, they are like two main pieces of capital markets. Then in investment bank, there's another category which is called mergers and acquisitions, which is what I talked about. So one company wants to buy another, but they don't know who they want to buy, or a company wants to sell themselves, but they don't know like if there are any buyers in the market who are willing to pay money upfront and if they really want it. So that's when like the buyers and the sellers, they don't know each other, but the investment banks comes in, they play the role, they advise them from every aspect of the transaction, from like whether you should consider selling at like this point or whether 2 years down the road, whether you want to sell based off last year's revenue or future revenue, whether you want to um, go to a public market, whether you want to go to a private market, whether you want to go through a strategic acquisitions or a financial sponsor acquisition. So these are like different types of buyers and seller activities that happen. Then there is equity research. So equity research is like basically you are researching on a public market, uh, public stocks, and you are like doing your analysis, and based on that you're coming with, I'm sure like you would have seen like people coming on CNBC and giving like, oh, I think the price target of this stock should be this much and why. So they'll give their reasoning, and they do their deep research, and they sell their research for fees to all these buy side hedge funds that they want to take some insights, and based on that they want to make decisions. So that's equity research in a nutshell. Then there's sales and trading, where you are like trying to broker the deal, where you are like trying to, if let's say, I'm sure, I don't know if you have like traded stocks or not, but if you want to trade like 100 stocks of any company, that's easy to sell because 100 stocks is not like a big enough quantity. But when you want to sell like 5% of the company, or when you want like to sell a block of a block trade, or if you want to do anything like big transactions, sometimes it's hard to find like the buyers and sellers just on the online brokerages. And that's why like this prime brokers, like the trading floors of every investment banks comes in, and they'll try to, I don't know if you have seen movies like Boiler Room or Wolf of Wall Street and all those, where they like try to call people and try to sell. So when you're not able to fulfill your order in one transaction, you'll have to sell in pieces, and that's when the investment banking, sales and trading department comes in, and they try to tap in the network and sell this types of assets to whoever wants to buy this. And then there's asset management, where you are like I said, sovereign wealth fund of Abu Dhabi or any Gulf nation. They want to give money, and they want like these banks to invest money. They want their assets to be managed by someone else, and that's how the investment bankers will provide them. Okay, I'll manage your money. So this is like kind of the activities basically done by investment banking. And then there are like different. So this was investment banking is mainly considered like a fee-based business. So you're not taking the risk of putting any of your own dollars or any of your own rupees, but instead you are just like advising, you are bridging the gap. So you're not taking the risk, but in return you are getting success fees. So if you successfully close a deal, or if you successfully close any transaction, you'll get some percent fees on that. Then there are like different, so this is like investment banking. Then within finance, there are like different brackets, like um, hedge fund, there's private equity, there's venture capital. So in India, if you notice right now, there's tremendous like amount of money coming in, like people are pouring millions and millions of dollars in startups. Like they don't know like even if the startup's gonna be successful, but that's what VC is doing, and that's how VC has become so popular in the last 5 to 10 years, because of the success they have got in the Silicon Valley companies of US, like the VCs that invested in Google, Uber, Facebook back in 1980s, and they saw the success in the early 2010s, and that's how the VCs have emerged and they have come into play. But basically, VCs, private equity, hedge fund, they all do the same thing, where they are like managing someone else's money, and they are putting that money to work. And in return, they get fees to manage the money, and as well as like they generate some return, and on that return, they'll get some fees. So this is like in our world, we call them the buy side. So they are like the buyers because they are like actually putting the dollar to work. So hedge fund, private equity, wealth management, venture capital. So these are all like big terms, and this is the other side of the financial markets. So this was like a brief overview about investment banking. I'm sure like I tried to give it a high level overview, but a lot of people might not be familiar. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.
Hello, sir. Hello,
Don't call me sir.
what is the difference between equity and stocks?
It's same. So stocks is like just something that you are giving to someone, right? Equity is like actually the technical term, which is like a portion. So let's say if you own 100 rupees, and if someone gives you 10 rupees, but in return you are giving them a portion of your $100 rupees worth of asset. So what he bought, the other person or the other party, is called the stocks, or you could say like you give him or her the equity in your piece of asset. So it's just like different terms, but it's kind of same thing. Let me
Can you tell
Yeah, go ahead.
what is the upcoming scope of investment banking in India?
I mean, to be honest, this industry, as long as there are like companies that wants to raise money, companies that they want to like sell their companies, or companies that they want to buy, this industry has been like successful over last many years, and in fact it will be successful even more with the amount of innovation and like the new stuff coming in every day. So in any part of the world, but to be honest, I'm really optimistic about the Indian landscape and the Indian market because of the startups and because of the way the economy is going up. I'm not talking about like GDP or real inflation or anything, but like the startup culture or the public market. Um, so it's like a huge amount of money being poured in. There's like huge amount of deals, transactions going on. So as long as there are companies coming in, investment bankers will always be there. They'll always be there to facilitate. They will always be there to advise people and do the deals, close transactions. So I would say like investment bankers are like one of the most creative guys, and they will always find a way out. So there's one famous, I don't know if you know Charlie Munger, but he's a business partner of Mr. Warren Buffett, who is known as like the genius of investment world. And he uses like he has a very famous saying like investment bankers will keep selling shit as long as shit can be sold. So and that's the reputation of investment bankers in the world. Like they will always find a way out to do deals, to close transactions. And that's why I think like in general investment banking is like very very attractive market in all the geographic part of the world, but particularly in India. I've recently seen like a lot of banks are emerging and a lot of small shops are emerging. So I think I'm at least very optimistic about the Indian market.
Sir, so you listed a
Bro,
lot
what do
of
you
things.
think is the upside?
Go on, go on.
Yeah, I think two
Bhaiya,
people
what do you
said.
think is the upside of being an investment banker and the downsides as well?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, upside as an individual or as a profession as a whole you are talking about?
Both ways, both ways.
As an individual, to be honest, like good amount of money, and that's what like motivates a lot of people, because you close deals and based on that you're getting success fees. And if you're working in a small firm, most of the time you'll have like partnership structure where you're not just earning the fixed fees, but it's like a performance bonus where you're like if you're working on a deal that's you're able to close deals, so it's a good money. then at the same time you're really helping solve the problem. So like a lot of people say, oh, I'm making an impact, I'm helping solve the problem. But think about this. There is a seller who has been like in a family business for like last 100 years. They have like put so much effort to grow the business, and now they want to sell because I think they have the main owners, they are old, or their upcoming generation, maybe they don't want to be in this business, or they want to use the proceeds from the transaction and diversify their wealth. So at that time you're really helping that seller to get out of the market, help them get as much proceeds as possible, and you are like at the same time helping the buyer also. So if the buyer has money and if he wants to enter into some business, you are like facilitating, you are like making the deal, you are the person who is like responsible for making that happen. So in a way you are like really helping both the sides of the party. Think about a startup where someone is really in need of money. There is a like very once in a century kind of idea if someone has, and we have seen like products recently over the last 10-15 years, the products that everyone is using nowadays, whether it be apps in your phone or any kind of like tech or products that has come. So there is like unique ideas coming in day by day, but most of the times ideas fail because of lack of capital. So at that time, if you're helping someone raise money, then you're like genuinely helping for the right cause. You're helping a company become successful. And that's how like when they say like you are making impact, we are like changing people's lives. That's what as a profession you are doing. As a as a personal and profession, I would say. Professional capacity. So that's the advantage. Disadvantage, to be honest, I don't think any disadvantage I've seen except for like professional. If you're not so investment banking, believe me, it's like tremendous hours. It's not like 9 to 5 job. I had like so right now I'm in Eastern time zone, and when we started this conversation, it was like 9:30 a.m. It's Saturday, and still like I had a call to attend at like 9 a.m. Yesterday, Friday night, I was like grinding till like 11 p.m. So this is like the reality, and it's not like everyday thing, but whenever like you are working, you are trying to close deal by the end of the year. So sometimes work-life balance is hard to like it's hard to balance that. Many people say it's important, and it should be important, but this is like the reality. Long hours, working under pressure. So if you think this is a disadvantage, then you can consider that. But I personally don't, because this is I knew like before I signed up for this, I knew this is like how the industry is working.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Yeah, you said
Yeah.
you listed a lot of things that an investment banker does. So, like, do they teach all of this in the 2-year MBA program, or you have to find a niche and then work on it?
Um, to be honest, like they'll never teach you about specifically about investment banking. And let's talk about this. So like I talked all about like what investment banking is and all this, but like what are the skill set that I think are required to go into business of investment banking. So I would say like first of all, you should be very clear. So like the motivation, like why you want to be an investment banker. If you are like firm, if you are clear, that should be your first step. Like, okay, no one's gonna teach me what investment banking is, but if you heard from someone, or if you saw someone, or if you have watched someone doing anything, then that could be your motivation. That's fine. But as long as you're clear, like why you want to be an investment banker, or for that matter, like any profession, why you want to be a management consultant, or why you want to be a software engineer, or why you want to be a mechanical engineer. So if you have that clarity, I think that should be your number one step. Why? Just not for the sake of like this will be a question in your interview, but you should answer yourself why you want to be in any profession you want to go into. So if you have that thing clear, then you need to start preparing about like, okay, now I'm clear that I want to do this, but how I can do this. So in India, I mean, it's I don't think it's gonna be very as simple as like a company coming in to engineering institute and hire people. So if that's what you're thinking, like that's how I can go into business in this business, and I don't think it's possible. And that's why a lot of people consider going to business school. And even in business school, let's talk about the difference in India and in US. So in India, business school, if you want to go IIMs, no doubt, like they're the best. But you'll have like it's very competitive to get into, and it's it's right after college. So I won't say like whether it's good thing or bad thing. It's good thing that you are like right after college you can get into IIMs or any other good B schools. In US it's kind of different. Like I talked, you need like few years of work experience. So traditional 2 years program is really good if you have some patience, if you want to work in an industry, and then if you're figuring out like uh, where I am currently in my career, I don't think I'm able to grow like I wanted to grow, and that's why probably going to business school and probably pivoting from the industry I'm currently working will help. Then that's obviously a good path. But if you are clear from day one that if you want to be an investment banker, then I won't suggest like wait for 4 years and get 2 years program or 2 years MBA program. Rather start preparing like while you are in this 4 year undergrad program, or like go to business school in India and then start figuring out the next 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 steps. In terms of skill sets, I think it's very important because like in investment banking is like, believe me, very hard to get into. Like even in business school, um, out of like on a scale of like 100%, I don't think more than 10% of the class goes into this field because like it's competitive, and um, they don't have like enough job openings as like any other industry, like tech industries like Google and Amazon right now. At least in US I'm talking about. I'm sure in India also it's like Amazon is hiring like crazily for not just software development roles but other kind of business roles. So those are the kind of functions and those are the kind of jobs a lot of people get hired from business school. And because it's competitive, because like only few people get in, it's very important to be prepared, and prepared in terms of like not after going to business school or after like if someone from this uh, batch right now here is targeting like after passing out of IIT Patna, if you want to go, then you'll have to start preparations from now. And by preparations, I mean like it's very important to understand the financials, like financial statements and the working of like how the mechanics of it. So there are like three main statements, like income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statements, how that work, how they are linked with each other. So these are like all part of the questions they ask in the technical interview. So it's very important to prepare for all this, read about this. If you need help from someone, take help from someone. Then there's also very, because we are dealing with like financial markets, we have to like, we can't just talk about things, but we need some numbers to justify our reasoning, right? So you have to model. So if you know this company is worth this much, then you need to show like on model, you need to make, why do you think the company is worth this much amount of dollars? So financial modeling is like crucial. It's like very, it's, I would say it's one of the most important part of your journey to being an investment banker. Then, like I said, technical interview modeling. Then it's also important to know about like overall market activity, the macroeconomics and the microeconomics of the global as well as your local economy. So you should read about like daily. I would say like you should have that habit of reading about what's going on in the market. What is like if you're in India and everyone's in India, so like how much is the Nifty stock market, like the index is closing at the end of the day. Even if you're not investing, just being like aware of what's the crude oil doing in the world, or what's lending activity interest rate in the world. What is the different index of the world, like S&P 500 in US or Dow Jones or Nasdaq, how are they performing? How is like the financial markets in London doing? Just being aware of all these things, it will really help you in your interviews. It will really help you, like it will differentiate you from being like every other candidate versus a candidate who knows about his stuff. So if you start speaking about all these things, they know you are intelligent enough. you have done your homework and you're passionate and interested about these things. So I think that will really help you. So these are like the preparedness that is in your hand now. Like getting the opportunity is different thing, but you have to be prepared when you get the opportunity. And then the third thing I would say for investment banking to enter into, it's very important is networking slash research, I would say, because it's so hard. Like the company will come on campus and hire. So the best way, not just to get hired, but the best way to even get into interview is by expanding your network as much as possible. So you can like reach out to people even if you don't know someone. LinkedIn, I would say, is the best source. You should utilize as much as you can. Um, Reach out to people you don't know them yet, but like, hey, introduce yourself. Instead of like randomly sending them a request, like send a small note like, yeah, I'm interested in investment banking and I see you are working as an investment banker for like past XYZ years. It would be really great to like be in touch and to learn from you, and if you have any advice. So that's how the conversation should start. So if you are like if you know any alum who is in this space, then definitely reach out to them. If you know someone in your personal circle, then reach out to them. And even if you don't know someone, there is no harm in reaching out and making networks. And that's how most of the time, that's the best way to land an interview or a job. So, and in the process, when you are speaking with someone, you also get to know about the culture, about the about the type of transaction, about the type of deal that the person you are speaking with or his firm they are working in. So that also helps to do your research. And like when you go to interview someone, so there are like three main questions in an interview. First is like why you want to do investment banking, and why you want to work at our firm. So these are like three questions you will be faced in any interview, whether like the wordsmithing can be done, where they'll be like, okay, tell me about yourself, but that is why you. So that's when you have to pitch. That you can do like why you, because you know like why you are the best person to do the job. Why investment banking? That's when like you can say what motivated you to be an investment banker, or for that matter any profession. And then why this firm? So that's when like when you have reached out to that person who you spoke with, you did your research, and then you can say, oh, I think there are a lot of firms in the market, but because you guys are doing like this kind of particular transaction I'm interested about, or you guys have done like X number of deals in the last 10 years, and done you have been consistently like beating your competitor in this market. So I think I've done my research, and I think this is a great place to start my career or to grow my career. So this is like very important aspect of your journey or your path to investment banking, which is like the networking. It's very important. Like reach out to people, talk with them, learn from them, ask them questions. um, Sorry I took this long. I know someone started like traditional 2-year program where they teach, but they don't teach. So this is how like you have to start. Business school, definitely they won't teach you what investment banking is, but they will give you the platform, which is also very important. So obviously you'll attend classes like corporate finance, accounting, and all this. This will help you develop your financial skill sets, and at the same time they will provide you a platform. But after that, this is what I talked about. It's you that you will have to do all these things. In a business school, it's a good thing that there are like network. There is a vast network of people in investment banking, so you can definitely go in and take the advantage and the opportunity to tap in that network. Most of the times companies come to business school to hire people, so that's also the platform that the business school provide. But that's the platform only that they can provide. But after that, it's you yourself that you have to do the work. So why investment banking, and why our firm? These are like very important, and that's where like you will have to do your own homework. I saw like there were some hand raised. Any other questions, guys?
Hello, Bhaiya.
Hello.
Bhaiya, I want to make to the top IMs. Are they best for investment banking and other things? stuff like finance?
Yeah, I'm sure. Like if you get into like the ABCs and the L and what K, right? Kozhikode? Yeah. So all these like top IIMs, if you can get into, I'm sure like you'll like I won't guarantee you that you'll get in, but at least you'll like be very closer and you'll have a good chance of success. Like I said, business schools like good platform to connect with a lot of people and good platform for companies to come in and hire you. Now they hire you or won't hire you, it's up to you like how you perform in the interview. But definitely, I mean, business schools have been and they will be in the past also and in the future. Like they will be one of the great feeder program for business investment banking industry.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Yeah, I had a doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
How to get into business school in foreign? For example, how to build your profile such that it's attractive enough to get into that business school.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. So like there are two programs in business school. The one that I went into where you can like go right after your graduation. So the program I went to requires like less than 2 years of experience. And any other business school, the traditional 2 year program, they consider candidates after they have some form of corporate work experience. So there's not like a written guideline of like what's the best way to get into, but it's all about like your past and your future and how business school is going to help you connect that from where you are and where you want to go to. So in order to get into, first of all, you should have like really good story. And I won't say like you should have good academics or whatever. It's important, but even sometimes if you don't, but if you're like genuinely inspiring story or motivating story of like, hey, this is the struggles I faced, and this is the even though I was like 6 pointer or 7 pointer or whatever, like I was not the top in my batch, but I was not interested in this. But you need to show if you're not interested in like being an academician or like good in academics, then what else you are good at. So just try to balance that if you're not good in academics and other thing, if you're not here there. So it's good to have inspiring story, genuine story of like what you have done in the past, what you have currently achieved, and why you think the business school is important for the next phase of my life. So you can say, okay, I was in like tech industry for like past 4 years, but now I really want to enter into like consulting, or I want to enter into banking. And I don't think you can just say like because I like that industry, I want to go. You should give that reasoning why where I am, I'm not able to make an impact, or I'm not able to do the work that I genuinely want to do in this industry. And I think in order to get from point A to point B, there's no other way than like being through your school. So that is what business schools they are actually looking for. I'm sure like there are like GMAT requirements, there are referral, and everything is like equally important. But being able to provide that answer of why you want to connect, why you want to go through them, if you convince them, they're gonna hire you. It's as simple as like you're selling the story. If they buy your story, you'll get it.
Bhaiya, there's
Thank
this
you, Via.
thing that foreign business schools are really expensive. So do you think it's really worth to invest so much money in foreign business schools and get an MBA from there?
I mean, it's a risk reward. You're taking the risk. Just like we say in like debt market or equity, the more risk you take, the chances are like more reward you might get. So I won't like personally suggest anyone or advise anyone whether you should or should not go. You should be the best. You should be the you should make that call. It's expensive, I know, but if you are able to get job post business school in an industry like consulting or banking, what I've seen is like the return on investment is like within 2 years. So you invest money, if you land a good job, you're gonna get paid back. But now that's the difference comes in like whether I'll be able to get a good job or not. And it's not just because of your like skills and all this, but because of some things which are beyond our control, which is like the legality of it, where you know like rules can change at any time. Companies will all of a sudden start not hiring like Indian or like international candidates. So if you fall in that category and because of that you're not able to get a job, even though like you went to best business school, you got the best education, you paid a lot of money, but still like you won't be able to get job. And if that is just for the reason like the legal reasons, then that's beyond our control and can't do anything about that. But what I've like noticed and what I've seen in the past, like if you get into top 20 business schools, I know it's expensive, it's like expensive as hell, but I've never seen anyone had to go back to India even after like getting the top education, paying a lot of fees, and they are not able to find the job. So it's risky, but it's rewarding. People are able to get in like really good positions. So I won't say like you should or you shouldn't, but it's up to you. You should make that call.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Feel free to ask guys any question. All right. So no more questions?
Yeah, I think we can wrap up now. Overall, on behalf of the entire team of the Finance Club IIT Patna, I would like to thank Kush Bhaiya for such a truly insightful session, ranging from his overall experience in investment banking field and the various opportunities present in this domain. I'm certain that each and every person in the audience took something very valuable from the talk. I would also like to thank the audience for being so patient and enthusiastic during the entire session. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all. Good luck.
Thank you.